the chain of colonialism, and forever they will be celebrated for liberating this country. On this very day also, it gives us a chance for all of us, or technically everybody, to celebrate every hero in our lives, heroes that have made sacrifices to alleviate human suffering and make life on earth pretty much special. And as a few Kenyans coverage take time or converge at the Wanguru Stadium in Kirinyaga County to commemorate this day, spare a thought for the donkey and the donkey owners. And so, as we kickstart the conversation this morning, we welcome you on board. As I have said right there, we'll be having a conversation on donkeys and the donkeys owner. It's not the first time that we're having this conversation. You know why? It's because we acknowledge the importance of the donkey in human life. You know, we understand how it comes in handy, you know, as a form of transport, and you know, it helps you in doing so much. So you probably would not be seeing this as something that makes sense if you, at one point you have not been tasked to use a donkey, you know, as a mode of transport from point A to point B, or something that helps you carry stuff that is quite heavy. I personally have, and I have quite enjoyed, you know, how they have come in handy to address the need that I had at that particular time. And therefore, I would join the people who have hugely taken their time to make sure that they fight for the rights of the donkeys, in making sure that at least we have this conversation on and on. Strides have been made, but again, it appears like we're going in cycles or circles, because as much as strides are made, there are instances where you find ourselves going back. And probably that's the reason why we're having this conversation this morning. And taking us through the conversation, Humphrey Wafula, who is the Executive Director of Farming Systems Kenya, Farming Systems Kenya, a non-governmental organization that was established somewhere in 1981 through the initiative of Nakuru Lay People Fellowship of the African Inland Church, that is Nakuru Regional Church Council. And, you know, they will tell you for free, go to Nakuru, or left, right and center, you'll see how hugely they use the donkeys. And so we're having this conversation so at least we keep sensitizing us to make sure that we take care of the donkeys. We keep sensitizing us to make sure that at least we have as much population of the donkeys here. We keep sensitizing us so that we cut these processes where you find people having to slaughter donkeys for whatever reasons. Humphrey, it's a pleasure to have you this morning. I consider you as Shuja, because you're here to speak of these pertinent matters right here. And we keep saying that Shujas are not just those ones that actually fought for Uhuru or for our independence. Shujas, like we have just said, are, you know, these people that have impacted our lives in numerous ways. The same way we consider the donkeys Shujas. It's a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure too. I feel humbled and honored to be here today, and to speak about, you know, the contribution of donkeys and, you know, celebrate the heroes that are little known about in our societies. There's, as you've said, there's a lot of things that are going on down there in the society that you can easily maybe neglect. But then looking deeper into the issues, you realize how important these animals are and what contribution they have made to our economy. So thank you so much for having me here, and I look forward to having a wonderful time. Karibu
sana. Now, we just want to welcome you to be part and parcel of this conversation. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela, TV47KE. As we continue, we get to sample some of your comments. You know, just let's share those moments. Probably just remind ourselves of how important the donkeys are to us. Go back to down memory lane and think of the childhood moments when, you know, mom used to send you to go and get water down the river, and you could go with the donkeys. Or those moments when you had to go to the shamba to do whatever it is that you're doing, you could go with the donkeys, and very many other things. Let's just remind ourselves of that. And as we get to have this conversation, my name is Linda Lela, and the broadcast begins right away. We're going to have a special coverage of the Mashujaa Day celebrations. Musa Salah is already on ground, that is in Kirinyaga County, and therefore we'll be looping him in later on so that he can keep us up to tabs. Above everything, we'll have other individuals joining us again for the very same conversation as we commemorate on the great things that different people have done to the people of Kenya. We'll also have our correspondents across different parts of the country so that they can tell us how this day is being commemorated in their special, places that they are in. So let's get to this conversation on donkeys. And, well, I started by saying that we have tried so much to make strides, in the care of the donkeys. It's not the first time I'm having this conversation with someone.
Yeah.
I have heard with a couple of individuals that are so much committed towards making sure that at least, the donkeys are taken care of. You have heard of conversations of tunze punda kutunze and all that. But it appears like, we just focus much, at a certain time, and before we know it, we have forgotten the essence of this. Why?
Thank you. I think it's good to look at, the strides we have made so far. But then I think there is a disconnect. Most of the time, people wonder why are we talking about the donkey? And I want to bring maybe our listeners to speed just to show them the significance of these animals. Looking at, every food we have on the table, and especially here in Nairobi, looking back from where this food comes from. Some of the places are so much interior. The roads are impassable. Yes, our government has done quite a lot to open up road networks, but we know there's still a lot of areas that we are still, are not reached. And these food commodities that we get from these farms, we only transport them by donkeys. So probably the viazi that you have on your table, the meals that you're having this morning, if it is sweet potatoes, whatever it is, it's highly likely that they were transported by donkeys. And looking at that from the economy perspective, you see the significance of these animals. There are some of the areas that are, you cannot reach. Motorbikes cannot reach those places because of the terrain. Maybe it's very hilly. But then donkeys can access those areas and get the commodities out of those areas into places where we can get them and access them using lorries and maybe other means. And that's how this food reaches, our tables. And also the people living in the arid and semi-arid areas whereby there is no water, they use these animals to travel long distances to get water, firewood and charcoal. And all these things, they are the things that we use on a daily basis. Therefore, the livelihoods of these people are highly tied to these animals. And that's why we are celebrating today the significance or contribution of these animals, but also the donkey owners, because they play a critical role to our economy, although we may not really see. Yeah. Okay.
And we have seen lots and lots of strides being put. And like you say, let's celebrate the strides. This fight to make sure that we put to an end the slaughtering of donkeys has gotten itself to levels of, the National Assembly. We've seen lobbying, of course, to county assemblies across the country. We have seen demonstrations of petitions and media campaigns across the country. We have, seen the government taking action towards making sure that, this is a game of the past. We have seen the ban, being gazetted. And to be honest, we can say that at least there's that unison in terms of making sure that we deal with this. But look at the fact that we are almost getting back to where it is that we started from. And hence the question earlier on, why is it that we're moving in circles as opposed to making strides that are permanent?
Well, I think first of all, being a Mashujaa Day, let's celebrate, our government, our president, and the critical individuals like our CS Munya, because they have played a very critical role in ensuring that, we hear the voice of the minorities. Yes, like there's research in the public domain. You go Google online, you get the Calro research, which was conducted in the year, I think, 2018 towards 2019. And the results that came out show that, from the time donkey slaughter was initiated until the time the research was done, about 600,000 donkeys had been slaughtered. So from a population of about 1.8 million, remove about 600,000, you get something around 1.2 million within a very short span. And the projections that they had done is that by the year 2023, we could not be having donkeys in this country if that trend had continued, because a lot of donkeys were being slaughtered every other day. And that is, I think, how now, you've put it, donkey owners went to the streets. There were a lot of demonstrations, outcries, and the government, we thank the government because they had it, and they brought all this issue of donkey slaughter to an end. But then we know what happened.
The court ruling.
The court ruling, and now it's like that order was rescinded. But then we thank God because the donkey owners are still pursuing the issue, and we believe eventually that the government is going to close this thing altogether, because looking at it, it's not sustainable. But then the impact that it has on the donkey owners, you imagine selling your donkey at 15,000 shillings, and that research puts it very, very clearly. A farmer on average makes about 11,300 shillings per month from this donkey. So it means within 2 months, you've surpassed the amount that you sold this donkey for. Okay. So it means it's worth it to have the donkey than to sell it. Okay. So the economies dictates that these animals are more important as compared to when you're selling it. You get money once off, and you're done. Yes.
These slaughterhouses, what goes on and what brings the fear? Because fine, they could be there, and no one compels you to selling your donkey. Then why the cry?
I'll give a very good example. Right now, within that period when the ban was effected, our donkey owners, we've not had cases of donkey theft. Yeah. That shows that there is somehow a link between those donkey slaughterhouses and the theft that was happening within the communities. Our farmers now can afford rest. They can sleep because they are not fearing that they may wake up in the morning and find their donkeys gone. But then when the donkey slaughter was actively going on, we had a lot of cases and outcries. So it shows you already there's a link between these two. Yes, and but right now people are peaceful, and we're not hearing any cases. So it shows you there's something, even though we may not have unearthed it clearly, but there is a link between the slaughter.
But how lucrative could this business be to a point where then you'd wake up and realize that your donkey is not there anymore? Because we have cows, we have other domestic animals that again, we have slaughterhouses that exist for them. Yeah. I know it's common that we have banditry sometimes and cattle rustling on other areas, but it's not as bad. So why the donkey?
Yeah, I think for our brothers and from maybe the country China, they maybe know the secret. There's this thing they called a jiao. A jiao is derived from the donkey skin. And we hear that when this donkey skin reaches China, the value is so high, almost between 80,000 to 100,000. That one I may not verify it, but I think we can do the research to determine it. Now you can imagine you selling your donkey at 15,000 shillings, but the skin alone reaching China, maybe it goes for that tune of maybe around 80,000. Because a gel that is derived from the skin, we are told that it makes women look more beautiful. It makes you like you don't age, and there are many other things you can read in the research. They have elaborated.
They say let's read it kidogo.
Yes.
Donkey hide gelatin or ass hide glue in gelatin obtained from the skin of the donkey by soaking and stewing. It is used as an ingredient in the traditional medicine of China, where it is called a jiao. The gelatin is produced in several coastal provinces of China, and so probably it makes sense that if it goes there, it will be very expensive, and it has lots and lots of benefits that we might not go through right now. Like you rightfully put it, one can always Google and get to understand.
Yes. So what I would say is all these, we say they are myths because they're not scientifically proven. And previously, this jiao was like it could only be afforded by the high class people. But now that the economy of China has grown, I think the middle class are also able to afford it. And now the demand has grown so much. And so there's very high demand, and that's why you see they have come to African countries to look for this donkey skin. But if there are things to enhance beauty, I think there's a lot of things in the market. That's why we are saying our economy should not be, compromised for the interest of, a minority somewhere else. And looking at the damages they do to our country, I think you look at the maths, it's not really worth it. So for us, we are saying, yes, if they want, China itself had about 8 million donkeys. They slaughtered until it was almost 4 million donkeys. Their own country closed that business. Now, why are they coming for ours? I think it shows you that it's not sustainable. There are people who are saying, oh yes, we can breed, we can do that. China itself, with its level of technology, has not had a breakthrough in breeding. So it means we need to stop this thing until maybe we have a solution that really, you know, is tangible before we can say we revisit this issue. But as we speak of right now, this thing needs to be closed and let our economy grow also.
In its own wisdom, why would the court have, you know, to give us a reverse on the gains that we have made?
Yeah, I may not really delve so much into the issue of the court, but I think it was thrown out on a technicality.
Has it been challenged so far? Has there been an appeal?
The challenge, you see, like it was the government, you know, which had presented, which was defending, you know, the case, because the slaughterhouses went to court and they were accusing the government. So the government was the main respondent.
Okay.
Yes, the farmers were interested parties, but you see, being an interested party, you cannot go to court and say, now I'm against that ruling. I think it's the government to defend it. But I think we don't have very tangible, you know, outcomes or what the government is doing at the moment. But, you know, the government was also not really pleased with the judgment. But yes, on a technicality, the case was thrown. But you find that looking at, because farmers have also petitioned again, the government on the DVS office, the CS office, just to show them they were not pleased about, you know, the ruling. And I think the issue is being pursued. Okay. So we are keen, just following up to see what will be the outcome. Yes.
What is the worst that can happen if the farmers themselves decide to go to court? Because then, well, it could be one thing for the government to do the same, but them that you know, are in close contact and are the ones who are using these animals then should be able to push for the same even further.
Yes, that is an option. I think that is an option that is available.
And are there, do you suppose there are tangible grounds for them to win or for them to convince the courts the reason why they advocate for this?
Very, very tangible. There are very tangible reasons. And I think even from the research, it speaks volumes, because showing that if the trend continues within a very short time, the donkey would become, you know, like an extinct species, you know. And there's a lot of individuals depending upon these donkeys. We've heard of cases where people have lost their livelihoods. In Naivasha, for instance, you wake up one morning and you find your 4 donkeys gone. And these were the source of income whereby this individual was paying rent from and using the same to educate their children. So you are from grass to grass. You're grounded totally. So I think looking at the downside, it is so weighty as compared to what they would say this business is contributing towards the economy.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Wafula, allow us to take a quick break, and then we come back and wind up on that conversation. We just look at the action plan. We just look at what way forward. We call upon the society and the community to be actively involved, sensitize them that, you know, it's not just about the little monies that the one-time money that you make, but it goes beyond, you know, what it is that we think, and making sure that also these families are well catered for, because you can imagine that just for 80,000, you know, that you get one time, you can overlook the importance of getting, you know, 11,000, like on how many years, you know, the longest time that you could be having this donkey, and as strong as, of course, it could be useful for you in day-to-day activities at home. So let's take a quick break, and then we come back, and in about 10 minutes or there, we get to wind up on the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and welcome back to the broadcast. Still with me, Humphrey Wafula, the Executive Director of Farming Systems Kenya, also joining in handy in the fight towards making sure that at least we are able to take care of our donkeys. And so moving forward, and now that we have this conversation year over year and year after year, we certainly hope that we are going to make the strides that are expected, no relenting, that we are not going to get to scenarios where we say we no longer have our donkeys just because we lazily took, things that were supposed to be taken, seriously the way we did. And so as we speak of this, what will it take for us to sensitize the communities, to remind the communities of the importance of this? Sometimes we'd want to say, well, let them see it for themselves. If it's in a homestead or in a household, they are lucky enough to have a donkey, but it's not all households that will. And maybe those ones that are being used to steal and take this to the slaughterhouses have zero knowledge of the importance of this.
Well, thank you so much. I think first of all is to thank your station, the TV47 and other stakeholders that have come in handy to help us to educate the public and to reach out to them about the significance of these animals.
Yeah.
And so we really celebrate also you people.
Thank you.
Because you are also helping this noble cause. But then also I would also like to celebrate all the stakeholders, like even our partners, Brook East Africa, and all the other partners who have been supporting this cause. So we are really helping the farmers to understand, but also the public to understand the significance of these animals to our economy and to individuals who really directly depend upon them. We've seen an example of one of a cooperative. It's a company, actually, a dairy company, that empowers young women who maybe got pregnant at an early age and they don't have a source of income. They empower them by giving them donkeys, and then these ladies transport milk for the community, and they are paid at the end of the month. So you see, they are creating employment for these individuals. Now imagine somebody depending on that, and then all of a sudden, come one morning, the donkeys are gone. So I think for us, what we want to really put across is these livestock, the donkeys, are really helping the society. And therefore, this idea of maybe theft and donkey skin and all that, I think we really need to come in together as a society, as Kenyans, and even in Africa, to defend the interests of the minorities. This is the only way we can help them to rise up and to better our economy and to go to the level where now countries like China and America are. I believe initially they used drought power. Drought power is the animals. Look at the history of all these developed countries. At some level where when they were where we are right now, they used a lot of horses, donkeys, and such kind of things. And these animals contributed to their economy. Right now where they are, you can trace, the contribution of this livestock. Let them also allow us to also move forward, yes, and use this livestock in a manner that will help us also to advance our economy. Yes, Kenyan economy is growing, and as like I said, I think you go down or narrow down on the contribution of donkeys to the economy, it's so huge, though most of the time it goes unnoticed.
All right, that's
Yes,
true.
yes.
Care of the donkeys, because, well, you have even heard of phrases like unanchukuliaje kama punda. That is a polite way of saying that in as much as we understand the contribution of the donkeys, we really do not accord them the care that they need. I would want to imagine it's an animal, and so in as much as you'd imagine that it can handle so much, sometimes we overdo, so sometimes we overuse them. And even when it comes to homesteads, go to homesteads, in most cases they will sleep out in the rain, out in the cold. Well, there's really nothing much that is done towards making sure that also they get to enjoy their existence.
Yeah, for us, I think, and other partners that we work together, like Kendat and Senda Cow, Kenya, Stipa, there are quite a number of partners. Through the support of Brook East Africa, we've been able to educate the public, and we have seen a lot of change. For instance, I'll give an example of Naivasha. Naivasha was very bad. You would see donkeys with a lot of sores and wounds and all that, because the people who are using them were merciless, beating them. You want just to drive this animal because you are looking at the money. But now the attitudes have changed. You go there and look at the animals, they look far much better, because now they understand that these animals are also sentient beings. They feel pain and all that, and they need to feed. Yeah. So we have seen a lot of transformation. and people are now valuing these animals. And eventually, they are also making more benefit because this animal will live longer and serve them for longer. So they will continue gaining their monthly and yearly income from these animals for a longer time. Yeah, so we are already seeing a lot of change, and we hope that, you know, maybe in areas, if there are areas that are not reached, we very soon will be reaching those areas. But then we know a lot of change has been done. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Action plan, moving on, or call to action.
Yes. For us, I think our main focus is looking at the aspects of animal welfare. How do we take care of these donkeys so that they continue to be our heroes, although they are invisible heroes? But I believe that as we engage the public, people now get to see, you know, the sense. Why are we focusing on this animal? It's because this animal is contributing so much to our economy. And if we look at and take care of these animals, then very soon, I know the developments that we really have, even in the Vision 2030 and all that, they will come to fruition. But then you need to look at the foundation. You know, at times, like you look at, even if it's, for instance, I mean, let me use the example of media. There are a lot of people behind, you know, the scenes. The same thing is like the donkey. It's playing a lot of roles which you may not necessarily see. But then looking deeper into the entire ecosystem, you find that there are these animals that are playing a key role towards building our economy. And that's why we are fighting for these animals. It's because of our economy. It's because of the interest of the minority, the women in the arid and semi-arid areas who really depend upon these donkeys. Yes.
Thank you so much. You know, there are innumerable ways and instances that can be actually used or cited to showcase what a hero the donkey is. No amount of money paid for a slaughtered donkey will ever, and I repeat, will ever replace or compensate what the unsung hero is doing. And that is to say that this morning, as we celebrate our Shujaz, it doesn't necessarily have to be a human being. It is that one thing that is a game changer in your life, whether it's an animal, whether it's a specific thing, whether it's a human being. And it is on this day that we take that time to celebrate them, and not just today, but all through. Keep celebrating them, taking care of them, because then they hugely come in handy to make sure that your life is comfortable and you're able to make ends meet and you're able to look forward to another day, you know, with the hope of greatness. So asante sana once again. I've been speaking to Humphrey Wafula, the Executive Director, Farming Systems, Kenya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine. And we now get into the momentum as we will be crossing over to the different parts of the country just to get to see how people are commemorating their Mashujaa Day. Importantly, our eyes will hugely be focused in Kirinyaga, or on Kirinyaga County. Musa Salah is there and will be giving us updates of what is expected on this day and the national celebrations that will be conducted by President Uhuru Kenyatta himself, expected to attend, of course, his deputy, and numerous leaders that will be joining in, including the governor of Kirinyaga, Honorable Anne Waiguru. So let's take a quick breather, and then we'll come back with more on that.